All right. Hey guys, welcome to the November 19th Friday night Zoom session. We're going to talk about MA tonight, and we're going to continue off of some of what Dennis did, some of what we did 2 weeks ago, and we're just going to keep moving forward with our MA skills. How does that sound?
Cool.
So let's start out. Everybody, let's go around and let me know what your goals are and what you're hoping to get out of tonight, please. And let me know if you're a skier or a snowboarder.
Skier. I'm Brian. Oh, go for it, Gordo.
Yeah, skier. Just wanted to see if this thing will work. That's what I want to get out of it. So far, I've met my goal.
Yes, that's good to hear.
I'm a skier. I'm a skier, and I'm looking. This is my first one of these to attend, so I'd like to see what the process is.
All right, so Jay, to start to answer your question, we've been kind of working our way up towards MA. We did some simple things to get comfortable and confident talking about movements. Then we started talking about still movements, and depending on everyone's goals tonight, I am thinking about applying those movements to some timing, maybe a point in the turn.
Great.
Cool. Who wants to go next?
Geo, snowboarder. I don't know, see some faces, think about snow. Don't have a lot in terms of goals.
Brian, snowboarder. I think just kind of getting my mind back in the teaching mindset. I'm always a fan of movement analysis, just to see kind of what our boards, bodies are doing. Yeah.
Cool, sounds good. Wes just commented he is snowboard and ski. Primary goal is to refamiliarize himself with MA after taking a year off teaching last season. And for anyone who doesn't know Wes, he's one of our new hires this year. He's awesome. He's certified in both ski and snowboard, and he's looking forward to being part of the team. Wes, was that an okay intro? Cool. Hey, Miranda. Who wants to go next?
I'm on mute. Hi.
Oh, hey. Want to say hi and introduce yourself and let us know your goals for tonight?
My name's Miranda. This will be my 5th year teaching with Timberline, I think. Snowboard, and one of my goals was just to see Lynn because I haven't seen her in a while.
Well, we can catch
and
up
to get
later
back
if you
and
need.
to realize that snowboard season's actually upon us again. So getting back in the mindset mostly.
It's good to see you here, Miranda. Thanks for stopping in, and we'll work towards some movement analysis stuff to help you get in the mindset for teaching again. Would anyone like to go next who hasn't gone yet?
Well, I joined late. I don't know. The question is, why are we here? Is that the question?
We are here to do some MA. Now, I asked everyone to introduce themselves and let us know your goals for tonight, just so we can make sure we touch on something that helps everybody.
Well, I'm Tim Ganstrom. I'm actually not from Timberline, actually. Some of the Snoqualmie is where I teach, friend of Lynn's, and I'm just here to help out, listen in, and hopefully contribute or learn something.
Cool. Great to have you, Tim. Guys, Tim's awesome, and he's a great resource. He knows a lot of things.
Unfortunately, cooking is not one of them.
Hi. 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 Anybody hear me?
Hi, I can hear.
My name's Jacob Buselink, and I was born skiing. I was into water skiing too. I like barefoot skiing. I love skiing. I like all types of it. It's a lot easier than snowboarding when I'm going over choppy moguls and stuff. Trying to get better gear, but I have lots of goals. But one of them is I'm really scared, just thinking about it, and I'm so I just got done with the gym, and one of my goals is to work while I work out, and be able to work out before I get to work, so I'm extra just pumping with natural endorphins. I got a chemistry degree with the emphasis in biochemistry, math and physics, and bilingual. And I studied a lot of things, mainly recreation sports. One of my things is I love water because I was born on an island in San Diego. That's part of where I'm from, and that's my native island down there at Coronado. So I go back down there sometimes, and I got into surfing, you know.
That's awesome. Hey, Jacob, what's your goal for movement analysis for this evening?
Oh, for this evening,
Yes.
to get a proper record of things. So on a, actually a photographic record, not like just hearing things. So then I can have an imprint in my mind because I got a photographic memory. That's how I learn things. If I don't take the right notes, it's my own fault. I know. But
Cool.
I'm trying to.
We'll start
grab-
working
get it.
towards that. It's nice to meet you,
Yeah.
Jacob. Does
Thank
somebody
you,
want to
Lynn.
go next? Can I volunteer people? Is that allowed? Summer?
I knew that was coming.
Well, you're the only one who hasn't introduced themselves, other than G7th and Q.
Okay. I'm Summer, and hold on. Come here. Come here. Here. This is Grace.
Hey, doggy.
Yep. And we live in West Virginia, actually, but I spent a few weeks at Timberline this spring training with Lynn and Chris, and I also rode with Tim a little bit. It was really great, and I live at Snowshoe, which is an Alterra ski resort here on the East Coast, but I'm hoping to be at Timberline definitely next summer, and then maybe through the winter too. I'd like to teach there. I mostly teach skiing. I have a Alpine 2 and going for my snowboard 1 this year. And I'm not really sure what this meeting is. I just came, Lynn recommended it. So I love MA. I could use MA myself. So.
Thanks, Summer. It's great to have you here. We're just gonna do some MA stuff. We're working through the movements. We started really simple with kind of just words and learning how to put words to pictures and words to what we're actually doing. And then we had some still pictures last time I was here. And then last week, Dennis worked on some of the fundamentals. This week, I'm gonna build them out a little, and we're gonna look at some moving video. and
Okay, so
apply
you're
the
like
timing
just
there.
analyzing videos.
Yeah,
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna turn my video off probably.
yeah, no worries.
Okay.
All right. The one person who hasn't introduced himself, would you like to introduce yourself? You need to unmute. I'm going to ask you, and it should pop up. Good?
Okay, how's that? All right.
Perfect.
So Pat Tuning, brand new hire, skier. I got the little email from Timberline and decided to click on it and see what it's all about. And my goal is to be able to spell MA by the end of the session.
I think that sounds like a great goal. Cool. So should we get started? Thumbs up if you're ready to go.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
The other two sessions that you had on MA, are they available online to kind of review?
Yes, they're available on the Timberline YouTube channel.
Okay.
And so if you look in the email where you got this link, Tracy sent you Dennis's video from last week in the channel. And through that, you can link into the Timberline channel and get the other videos. And if you have a hard time, let one of us know and we'll help you get it.
Are they like 2 Fridays ago? Is that the idea?
It's been every Friday for this is the 4th Friday in a row that we've had this.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Check it out. Let us know if you have any questions, and any trainer can help. Cool. So I'm thinking we'll do a similar format to last week because that worked pretty well. I'm going to play a video, and I've got a skier and a snowboarder. It looks like we're pretty split in terms of discipline. So I'll just randomly pick one. And I'm going to play it through a bunch of times. I'll arrow through so it's not, it doesn't skip or anything. So it's going to go slow, but you're not going to miss frames. And then maybe I'll play it like 3 to 5 times. And then I'm going to ask you to let me know one thing that you notice. Okay. And I'm going to ask you to relate that one thing, it has to be related to the person who is skiing or snowboarding, okay? Anybody have any questions? Awesome. And after we get some information from everybody, we will go through each piece one by one, clarify, simplify, talk about ways to put it into a format that is digestible for ourselves, for our students. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to start sliding through this. And let me know if it gets blurry or anything. I can see most of you. Actually, I think I can see all of you. Oh, I can see most of you guys. If anyone's having a really hard time seeing, let me know. Everybody seeing it all right? No skipping?
Fine.
And then for the skiers who are here and for snowboarders too, when we view the ski video later, the discipline doesn't matter. It's all sliding. And the only difference is you're facing different directions and you have either 2 planks or 1.
What are we watching?
You're
there supposed to
watching
be
the
a narration?
snowboarder. Excuse me?
Is there a narration with it?
There is not narration with it.
Just watch the snowboarder, okay?
Right. And then let me know some things that you noticed. So some things that you learned in new hire training, maybe related to those fundamentals that Dennis mentioned, could help you identify movements that the snowboarder's making.
Oh, we want to, okay. Ooh, ow. No, that was good.
What I love is that you can see with how she does heel side to toe side turns, he or she, I'm not sure, anyway. You can sort of see that this catching an edge thing's gonna happen sometime in the future, like it's coming.
Cool.
So the trick is understanding what movements is a snowboarder doing or not doing that will predict that, oh, they don't have the movements that will keep them balanced as they do more and more turns.
I would argue that this person's doing a great job in terms of balancing. The shoulders are staying in line with the board. There's clearly some good ankle and knee movements happening because we're seeing a clean transfer of edges. But when we get to these traverses, you'll notice that they're perpetually kind of skidding backwards on that edge. And it's definitely worse in the toe edge than the heel edge. And eventually that's what ends up causing them to catch that downhill edge.
I have a comment.
Let's hear that comment.
So
Pat.
this snowboarder does not seem to be bending very much and is looking down at the conclusion of every turn at the board and seems to be a stronger turn on the toes than the heels.
Oops.
Yeah, when you say a stronger turn on the toes or on the heel, because a turn is a is an edge change, right? A turn is going from heels to toes. So, I mean, from heels to toes or toes to heels?
Heels to toes is stronger than toes to
Mhm.
heels. Just
Mhm.
holding the heel traverse seems weak.
And it sounded like you were hinting at some joint angulation there. You're talking about bending, like there's different
Yeah,
I
joints.
see what the problem is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know exactly what the problem is, why they have trouble.
All right, what do you see, Jacob?
Well, what happens when you snowboard is when you decide to ride the board flat, you don't know which side you're going to carve on sometimes, and you don't make a decision ahead of time and plan it out. So you accidentally grab a rail because you're riding flat. So you should always be on the heel or the toe. And if you're in the flat area, you're going to wipe out. At first, you got to carve it. You got to keep the centripetal force to keep the center of gravity in the board. And the flat riding is what causes trouble. The best way to do that when you're going slow is to do a manual jump of 180 or something to keep the board rotating and get centripetal force and get the balance from spinning, stuff like that, bending.
So
Manual jumps.
do you think this student looks like she would be able to do a jump?
She could, no, not ready yet because she's not ready to carve yet, and she doesn't know about flat riding. And if you ride flat and you're not sure what side you're going to carve on, you're going to catch an edge. It has to be completely fluid and predictable. You know you're going to be heel. You know you're always heel or toe. You never ride flat.
You never ride flat?
I try not to. I try to tell people not to because that's what makes them crash. Decide you're going to be on your heel or your toe, a little of either. Don't be in between.
That's interesting. All right, would anyone else like to add anything?
Some feedback from somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who
Outer
it's
space.
coming from.
Maybe me. I'll turn this off here. A lot of my stuff's distorted all the time. Crappy.
All right. I actually think it might be Pat.
It's
Pat, I'm
still
gonna
there.
mute you. Yeah, it's Pat.
Ah, okay, much better.
Cool. Does anybody, and Pat, you can come back on when you're ready to talk. I just muted you so the feedback doesn't bother people. Cool. Does anybody else want to add something about what they see?
My biggest thing is if you look at her hips or their hips while the riding's happening, they're stuck in a flex position the entire time. And it really comes out on the toe edge that they're still flexing the hips versus extending them. And then you'll see that the arms are kind of coming out as there's this teeter-totter to get that counterbalance and center of mass over. And if there was more emphasis, because at this level of riding, we're doing gross movements, we're not doing anything fine-tuned. And so really utilizing that hip joint can give us those big movements to help kind of stabilize the edge. And so like right here, we're very tall. On the toe edge, we're having to do a lot of things that are throwing off balance along the width of the board to counteract the fact that the hips are still flexed.
Cool. Thanks, Gio. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Oh, I was saying that I would argue that factor is not the only, but the biggest contributing factor for when the edge is caught at the end.
Cool. Thank you. Would anyone else like to add anything?
That's what I was noticing too. I'm kind of trying to sit back since I know you've got a lot of new hires on here, but like she's very stiff. She's not flexing her ankles very well. And when you overflex the hips on that toe side, it actually throws your weight off out from over top of your board. And if we're not over top of our board and centered, then we're not going to be able to control those edges very well. And so you can see like one of the turns back, like she's actually trying to do what we see a lot of beginners do and like swinging those arms around to try to make the turn. Whereas if we're stacked over our board better, because she also like leans those shoulders forward, we're going to be able to make those edge changes a lot easier.
But I'd like to add a comment also, if I
Of
can.
course.
Part of the problem with beginners is they'll ride flat, and the reason they're riding flat is because they're not going swiftly from heel toe to heel toe in a split second. They're staying heel for a long time, and it ends up being flat. So if they heel toed more quicker, they're going to be more stable and have a more stable path because everything likes the sinusoidal path for stability, just like surfing. and it likes carving. It's just, if it's stuck in a flat thing, that's when I had trouble. That's when I had my worst problems. I don't know which way I'm going to carve suddenly. But I mean, everybody, but, and then if you get in a situation where you're totally flat and you're not sure, the best thing to do is jump in the air and spin around or something. You feel it coming. That's what I try to tell people. But
So would
don't get
this student be successful jumping around and spinning in the air?
if we got her not to move at all at first and showed her how to rotate her arms and do 360s flat from flat stance, she's going to improve her abilities to not fall over, because that spin she'll see it coming, and then she'll do the spin and it'll be like, whoa, I pulled out of it, no problem, you know, because you got all that energy from your upper body, suddenly use it. You're not going that fast, you're flat right, just whip those arms up in 360 and bam.
Interesting.
That's
So
me.
let's keep this more observational rather than instructional or judgmental. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll put my name in the hat, so to speak.
Ryan?
So, you know, it's very clear that this is, you know, a student or an individual who's kind of early in their snowboarding career, very stiff, gross movements. You know, it seems to be there's a little bit of hesitation, intimidation, or fear there with the hands out, trying to prepare for a fall. So our center of mass is, of course, you know, moving it over the toe edge of the board with the hip flexion as well. That's what I'm seeing. But I think it's also pretty cool. You know, we've criticized this individual a ton, a lot of good information. But being new to the sport as it appears, she's linking turns, and I mean that's super cool. That always feels great. And so one thing that I noticed is that she's linking turns, which I think if I were there, the stoke is high, because you know it's easy to pick out the bad things, but sometimes throw a good thing in there every so often.
I like how you said that, Brian. That's important.
My ITC, Tracy, taught me that was the shit sandwich. You give them like a good thing, and then criticism, constructive criticism, and then another good thing.
Well, that's funny. We can
I'll
also
totally call Tracy out on that one.
We can be clear though, rather than give positive, negative, positive. As long as we're clear and honest and non-judgmental, and show them that we care about them, it's okay if not everything is like, you're so good, you know?
I think it's
it's not like you're saying like, oh, you did this bad. It's like, oh, well, this was good. You could like make a little improvement here, but this was pretty awesome right here. So yeah.
I think it's important too, when you're giving feedback, to explain that rather than you're doing this wrong, or if you did it this way, it's more like this body movement or this is creating this happening with your board, and that's why this is difficult for you. Not so much like the person, you're doing this wrong, but like when you're shifting your center of mass, it's putting you out of balance and making that turn harder for you to switch your edge. You're riding flat for longer than you want to be, like that.
I like how you said that, Summer. You addressed a lot of the points that people brought up when they were talking about this rider. So using Summer's comment, we're going to transition into going back through what everybody said and start talking about what is working, what's not working, what's happening, why we saw what we saw. Sound good? So something that came up a lot was that this rider's, well, we'll start with the flat base stuff. So why would this rider's base be flat? Some of us have touched on it a little bit, but
Going
let's call it out.
Going too slow, you know, that's what happens when you go slow. That's when I fall over myself. I'm like going real slow and riding flat. I can catch an edge, suddenly spin it if it's a bad board or something. I had a board called the skate banana. I didn't catch edge as much. Broke except on came dogging.
So is it possible to go slow with your ankles super flexed?
You can't really carve when you're going really slow. You know, you got to go ride flat. You know, yeah, you know, you can. I mean, carve like the quicker you heel toe, the more stable it is because you know it's more predictable. Suddenly, if you don't know which side you're going to carve to, and that's what catching the edge is when you suddenly didn't predict you're going to put that edge down. So it has to be 100% predictable, fast and efficient. Can't be like, oh, I'm not sure which. Oh, I've done it.
So what
Flat
about
riding because I did.
what about if somebody's a new rider? So
That's just the way
Miranda
the credit
touched on
works.
this. Miranda touched on this when she was making her comments. She mentioned that this snowboarder, and actually Brian touched on this too. We mentioned that this rider was a newer snowboarder, was not flexing very much. Was making gross motor movements. Is everyone familiar with that term?
Yeah. Upper
Who
body.
wants to, who'd like to call out the definition?
Gross motor, I'll go for it. Gross.
Wait, no. Let's let Gio do it, Tim.
All right, Gio, go for it.
I mean, are you doing things with a finesse and a dexterity and a simplicity? Or are you doing like big mass muscle kind of movement? So, you know, a fine motor movement would be kind of going through my different digits and touching to my thumb. A gross motor movement would be just like moving my arm back and forth. One of them has power. One of them has a degree of accuracy, I guess would be a way to describe it.
Cool, I like it. Yeah, so using big parts of your body to make movements, like your center of mass, like your hips, like a lot of people called out. So let's kind of jump into the kids area because I know some people on this call are pretty interested and want to learn more about kids topics. So this rider, it's her like second, or it might even be her first day. It's her first, second, or third day snowboarding. She is 13 years old. Why would she be making movements like this? Like she's 13. She has the ability to make fine motor movements. Like she can write, she can throw a ball really well. I mean, she's a good athlete.
Everybody's jumping in, so I'll just jump in here. One of the reasons why we don't work on like fine movements in the beginning is because one of the biggest things you're going to notice, especially for the new hires, is that they're really nervous. I mean, they're in an environment that they're not comfortable with, and so they're going to be a little bit more stiff when they're starting out. And you're going to have, it's going to take them loosening up and feeling things. As I always talk to my students about, like, as you feel things and you notice what's happening, then you can use that to fine tune some of your movements. But if it's her first or second day, like, she's still really stiff and really new because she's uncomfortable.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's go back to the kid focus though. She's 13 years old. She grew like 6 or 8 inches that year.
So
She's not used to it. Her muscles aren't used to her bones being so much longer. She's having a hard time with coordination. So something like, she's a competitive volleyball player. She's a great athlete. So she's just not comfortable with like the new size.
And, Kaylee went through that as well when she went through a little growth spurt, even at the level that she competes at. Like, whenever you have that big growth spurt, like their bodies don't move the same way, and their center of mass changes and things. So yeah, that too.
Yeah, and like Miranda said, she's really tentative. She's 13. She's new at snowboarding. And she's using really big gross motor movements like Gio described for us to get through her turns. So what joint, and people have said it on this call, is she primarily using to get her center of mass inside the turn?
Her upper body a little bit. Just seeing her moving her arms kind of funny and kind of didn't have her knees bent, so she's making up for it with her arms. It's
So
like
what
poking them right there.
what joint specifically is she using to get her upper body in that position?
hips,
What joints?
Somebody just said it. I just heard it.
Ankle?
hips,
Hip
Say it
joints.
louder, say it louder.
hips.
Thanks. Was that
Hips.
Summer?
Yeah.
Yeah, her hips. A lot of people were talking about how her hips stay pretty flexed and how, let's see who said it, how her arms come out. Pat said she was bending down towards her board and she was leveraging to get her center of mass over that new edge. And Tim is shaking his head yes, because he saw that too. And then that goes with what Brian said about her using the gross motor movements, what Miranda said about the hips being overflexed. And then what Wes said about and Wes said this in the chat, by the way, everything's kind of moving together and she's kind of like hinging at the hips to do it. To get her weight where she needs to get it to get from edge to edge. So that's why her board is flat. She's just kind of rocking and she's staying on that flat base for a long time because she's sliding and it feels comfortable and she's afraid the new edge is going to grab. Make sense? The other thing that you guys might not see is she's on an LTR board. Is everybody familiar with those?
I have one. I had one.
Sweet.
Burton.
I've heard of it,
Cool.
but I've never actually taught somebody on it.
So Tim, if you ever come visit me, we need to get you on one first of all, just for a run.
Just
I
to
won't
try
torture
it
you.
out, that'd be fun.
But basically they have a beveled base, which means it's curved, kind of like a bowl. So it's harder to catch an edge. So when you're first learning, it makes it really hard to catch an edge. But then when you're starting to turn, you like really have to get over the edge. And sometimes it's a little scary and you slip and slide a little bit more, like one of you guys pointed out how she was kind of like sliding in and out of the turns on her heel side and toe side. Yes, exactly, Wes. It's like a battalion. Geo, it is a rocker, right? So a rocker is kind of like this, right? From tip to tail, but then the base is beveled. So there are a few degrees on the toe side and a few degrees on the heel side that are shaved.
So the edge to edge, the toe to heel edges are also lifted as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Just like Geo's holding his hands. And Geo, if any of you guys come over here, if I can borrow one of those, if I ever check a bag and come there, I'll bring one for you guys. Actually, I think the rental shop has some. Geo, I think I might be there in a couple weeks. And if I am, let's go check one out if you're in town.
So the base is convex.
Yes.
Ah, is that recommended for a snowboarder of this level?
There are benefits and limitations to a base like that. Tim, if you have anything to say about the way I'm describing this, let me know. I prefer people to be on a board that is like really mellow camber because I feel like it teaches you to use the board to help perform and you get energy from it, or to be on something that's rocker camber. When I'm on a rocker board, I kind of just feel like I'm floating around, like I'm in a big boat.
Right, but this one is convex in the other direction across the ski from edge
In all
to
the
edge.
directions, in all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve and I have had a lot of talks about getting somebody to learn on a rocker and how like they don't learn about their edges, and the second you put them on a camber or a rocker camber board, they're gonna face plant. So I'm very much like Steve and very much believe on starting somebody out on the hard way.
Well, it's not the hard way. It's the way that you get performance and you can see what the board does. And Wes says, at Timberline, I will have a battalion. People can give it a try if they are curious. It has triple beveled something, I think, which is beveled edges and full camber.
Sick.
And Wes, I'm not that familiar about battalion. Can you write a little more info and I'll read it out for everybody? Triple base technology.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of that. Anyway, yeah, I guess all that I would add is that as instructors, we just need to think about it as like the board performance concepts of pressure and edge angle, right? And what the student or the snowboarder, what the snowboarder needs to do with their joints and their body in order to get what makes the snowboard want to turn, right? It's all about guiding that snowboard so the snowboard wants to go where the student wants the snowboard to go, right? It's all about matching the board performance to their intentions, right? And so if they have to go a little far, so the great thing about the beveled base is, yeah, when they're flat based and they're not sure if they're going to get to their edge or not, and they're hesitant to do the right movements to turn, sure, it gives them that extra safety where they don't accidentally catch the wrong edge, right? And eat it, right? So they might eat it a little bit, but at the same time, they're going to have to actually move their hips and their knees maybe a little farther, right? Or maybe move their hips more aggressively a little bit towards the nose of their snowboard because of that rocker to get the front of the edge to engage in the new direction, right? So yeah, like Lynn said, there's pluses and minuses to that, right? So you would have to teach to the equipment that they're on, I guess what I'm saying, yeah.
So speaking to where Tim is directing us and to the fundamentals you guys talked about last week, let's talk about pressure going up and down. So basically flexing, extending, with our center of mass over our base of support. So let's look at where this rider is. Are there any joints that are usually flexed that are extended right now?
Yeah, our front leg looks like it. It's kind of, not, it's pretty straight looking front leg, but yeah, pretty straight. That one's pretty bent compared to the back front one, which is good, but yeah.
But yeah, just classic beginner thing to do. Very typical.
She's really not on her toe or heel. It's totally flat riding at that moment. It's like scary looking. For a beginner.
Oh,
She is close to totally flat, but why is she close to totally flat? What's going on with her ankles and
She
shin that makes her?
She didn't do a split.
like this?
She didn't follow the directions of heel toe quickly, and she's stuck in a flat area. That's what I would tell her. I don't know.
So let's stick to the words flex and extend and the specific joints like her ankles, her knees, and her hips as we decide what's going on here. So what joints look like they may be a little bit extended?
Knees.
Left knee.
Yeah, the lead knee specifically.
Back. Her back's totally straight. I see it. Is that a straight back? It's a little curved over. Maybe not. Her head's straight up too, you know.
You know, which is a good thing,
So
really.
let's erase these drawings for a second. So is her back straight?
No, it's actually, well, it looks pretty straight. I mean, you can't tell completely, but it's pretty straight looking. Depends on the, you know.
Well, it's always, when you talk about straight or flex or extended, it's relative to something else, right? Every joint.
Relative to gravity, which way straight down?
Right. Or you can talk about relative to other parts of their body, right?
Gravity straight down, because you can be upside down, your body back straight out. I mean, just whichever straight up and down is based on which way straight up in the air, I guess.
So when Miranda was telling us about her hips, right? We talked about how her hips were flexed. I'm going to draw a picture right there.
So her hips
Apparently
are
I'm not.
flexed, but she almost, I can't tell because I'm on a phone. It almost looks like she's posturing a little bit, which is probably something they haven't talked about, which is where like somebody's probably told her to keep her chest up, but she's got those hips over flexed. So she's kind of like arching her back just a tad.
Yes.
That's what it almost looks like.
Yes, she's
Like
arching
I said,
her
I'm on the
back.
phone, so it's hard to see.
Do you guys see that right there? Or
Yeah.
back arch?
Now that I zoomed in, I can see that.
Is this right before the edge transfer?
Let's check it out. What do you think?
My guess is that that arch back is because there's and I have to respect her opening of shoulders is really minimal, especially given the context of how new of a rider she is. But my guess is that arch back is a byproduct of using the upper body to help initiate the turn. So you're seeing a little bit of the opening of that lead shoulder to help get the movement started.
So to me, it looks like her back is arched pretty much throughout, and it's a comfort thing. It's
to
kind of
try to
like a
stand more
bracing
straight up.
position. But let's move down to the ankles and the feet. So the point that I wanted to make is, does everybody see her left ankle? Do you guys see this over here? How the ankle joint is open?
Yeah, her front ankle.
Right, and her back ankle is almost open too, if not open. That's why the board is so close to the snow. If you look at the shadow underneath the board, there's barely a shadow, which tells us that the base is pretty flat, right? So she's on her toe edge. So since she's on her toe edge, right? And her ankles are
Right.
pretty extended, it's causing her board to be flat on the snow. And based on the way Dennis discussed it last week, that would be an appropriate cause and effect for a level 1 exam. Does that make sense to everybody?
Her ankles are what again? What are they
Her
doing? They're
ankles
flat.
are, her front ankle is extended and her back ankle is either slightly extended or just barely flexed.
Toe side. She's trying to lean on her toe side, you mean?
So
I
she
mean,
is supposed to be on her toe side, but due to the flexion of her ankles, right? And due to where her center of mass is, her board is almost flat on the snow, and you can see that by the shadow underneath the snowboard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, her feet are pretty flat. She's not even on her heel or toe side, really, is what you're saying. She's trying to use her body to lean on it.
In snowboard terms, if you're saying someone's feet are flat, you need to say why they're flat and what joint is making them flat.
Okay, so what joint's making them flat? All those, the ones up above her?
The ankle is
Sorry.
the one the ankle is the one doing
The ankle is the one that's making it flat. Okay, perfect. That's the answer I needed. Sorry about that.
in this situation. Do you guys
Okay.
want to keep, so we are at 7:15 right now and I want to be respectful of your time. Do you guys want to flip to a skier now so we can do a skier? Or do you want to keep working on this snowboard or it's up to you guys?
Oh, skier. We need to look at a skier.
Yes,
Everybody go to
please,
switch into a
skier.
skier? Everybody pretty
Yep.
clear on the snowboarder?
Not entirely clear, but I'm fine to move on.
All right. And if you have any questions, Pat, you can ask them. I'll stay on a little bit after too.
I was just gonna ask one question.
Of
What is
course.
it that actually caused the snowboarder to crash and burn? What
Oh,
movement,
God, no.
what movement made that happen?
I'm gonna open that up to everybody. Gio, you wanna
Oh,
go?
God. Ooh.
I would argue at the end of the day, it was ankle flex. She was on her heel side edge, and that extension would have lowered the toe side edge, which at that point was the downhill edge, and that's what eventually caught. Some might argue a different joint. I argue ankle.
So when someone is leveraging from their hips to make movements, that pulls the heavy part of their body, either inside or outside the turn, right? Which allows them to be successful or unsuccessful. So the ankle flexion is part of it. Did you notice how the center of mass got over the snow and then the
Her
rider?
hips were way overflexed at that point, and that's just going to bring, like, all your center of mass is going to be in your chest at that point, and it's going to be so far, it was so far out over the board that there's no way at that low of a speed she could stay up.
Right, it pulled the heavy part of her body over her snowboard, and since her center of mass was not over her effective edge, she went down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, our center of mass was on the wrong side when she made the carve, and she didn't predict the carve ahead of time.
So rather than right or wrong, let's try to use non-judgmental terminology, okay?
Unjudgmental, okay?
All right, let's jump into the skier so we can have some time with the ski video. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yes, please.
All right.
Oh, here we go. Oh, I know that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What run
ride it
is
all
it?
the time. That is a Storm and Norman. Or no, wait.
That is
yeah, it
not at Timberline.
Oh, God, I always think it's at Timberline or everything.
Nah, the videos I have are mostly not at Timberline.
Oh, no. Is it
Ooh.
Meadows?
No, this is in Colorado.
Oh, yeah, figures.
Is that one of the runs off Eagle?
No, it's one of the runs off Red Buffalo Express. Miranda, this is me skiing.
Oh, beautiful. That's you?
This is like day 5. So I'm not going to be offended. Just shout out what you guys see. Try to keep it brief, maybe like a few words per person for this skier.
Sure, it's way better skiing than I could do. I'm sure.
Let's see if we can put our words to a certain timing, such as, do you guys remember the 3 phases of a turn?
Yes.
Cool, everyone except Tim is allowed to answer.
I know nothing about skiing anyway, so.
Yes.
You know the phases of a turn, Tim.
Well, okay, yeah.
Cool, shout it out if you know it.
Initiation.
Mhm. What else?
Shaping.
Shaping or control. And what about this part?
Finish. Conclusion. End.
Awesome. So either initiation, control, finish, or initiation, shaping, finish. And it's just semantics.
Wait, these are funny words for me. I'm having trouble with them right now. They're new to me.
All right, hang on for 1 sec. I'm gonna draw on the screen and I'm gonna check out what Wes wrote because he added a comment, I think. Oh no, someone else added a comment.
But I can tell you, welcome to snow sports nerdology. You're becoming a
Yeah,
nerd.
well, I already am a nerd. I went to college for 7 years straight.
Yeah,
I'm pure nerd.
This is-
I'm as nerdy as you can get.
yeah. And now you're using it for snow sports. You know?
It's not always beneficial to be a nerd, trust me.
That's why nerds unite.
All right, so let's jump into the phases of a turn, okay? So if you look, the rider tracks like that, right? In a C. So right here is the initiation, right? Here's the control, here's the finish. Initiation,
Initiation, control, finish.
control or shaping, and finish. Is that clear to everybody?
Finish, yeah.
So
job.
I'm gonna go through this one turn, and I would like you to call something out, either in the initiation, control/shaping, or finish about what the skier is doing. So tell me where it's happening and what's happening. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, when you're ready. Sorry about that. I need to get out of annotate. All right.
Right. Mm.
Anybody can jump in.
There's an edge change on initiation.
Cool. Edge change on initiation. I like how simple that was, Brian. All right, and let me know where the initiation is. I'm gonna let you just shout it out and I'll stop it there, okay?
Now,
There?
No, a little
just
bit
before that. Little more before. Right there.
Right there.
Does anyone agree? Raise your hand if you agree with this.
Oh.
Raise your hand if you disagree. And if you raise your hand, you need to tell me why.
I can tell why. There's a pole plant with the left hand, and there's a rotation of the right leg to initiate the turn.
Yeah, I would say it's back a couple more frames because here, like the outside ski is already no longer parallel with the other foot, right? Like that outside foot was already pushed in the new direction already. So the initiation is kind of right when that outside foot starts to push out away from the inside foot.
So closer to right there.
Yeah, maybe one more frame. And it's hard to tell when it happens.
Yeah. I'd like to see.
Yeah,
the
right
pole
about
plant.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I
So
know.
does that make sense to everybody?
That's how I would ski.
Does the way Tim explained that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Cool. So basically, as the skier starts making a movement towards the new edge, that's the initiation. And then the edge grabs in the snow, and then you start seeing the rest of the movements that Pat was talking about as the skier starts to get into the control or shaping phase. Does anyone else want to add something about what they're seeing?
A little bit back seat there. Just
What
a
does
hair.
what does backseat mean?
Center of gravity aft of the boots.
Cool. What does aft mean?
Behind the boot.
Yeah, towards the tail of the ski is a way that is commonly known to describe it, or commonly understood to describe it to skiers or to snowboarders. So let's try to get something closer so you guys can see it better, because that is not an uncommon position. We'll wait till we can really see it. I know it's coming up. Cool, that's a pretty good image.
Yeah.
Tell me what
looking
joints
good.
are flexed and what joints are extended to make me aft at this point.
Okay. So your knee joint is is bent okay, but your ankle joint is not pressing forward to bring your hips more forward over the ski boot, centered on the ski.
Nice, Pat. So what could I do? Someone other than Pat, because I know he understands this now. Someone other than Pat, what could I do to get my ankle joint more closed? Oh, Wes just said something. Oh, Wes, I saw what you just said. It's the same thing as he just said. Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed it. All right, so what joint could he flex to make his ankle joint more closed? Or what could he flex? What part of his body to make his ankle joint more closed?
Neck,
Oh, it's,
neck, bend
I
his
would
neck
say
down.
he could flex his hip joints to make him more forward.
He could flex his hip joint, but would that get his ankles more flexed?
Maybe.
How?
Oh, I think his knees, bend his knees and they'll bend his ankles.
All right, I'm gonna ask everyone to jump up.
I'm gonna jump up and where? I'm in my car.
All right, so if you, and you don't have to, so Jacob's in his car, he doesn't have to jump up. So everybody stand up, okay? Get in the position that the skier's in. You can brace on something. I'm gonna use a chair right here to get in that position, okay? Actually, you can't even see my legs. All right, so my ankles are extended right now. Does everybody see that?
Not very well.
That makes my ankles flex a little bit, but my weight is still aft. So what can I do with my body to get my weight more even?
Bend your hips. Neck.
Hey, Lynn,
Yeah, bend your back and then knees too.
And my back and knees like this?
Maybe not your back, just your knees a little bit, but yeah, just your knees a little bit and stand up. Well, not too straight. Oh, a little bit of both, but not too much.
Is there an easier way we can make our ankles flexed?
Um,
And I'll give you guys a hint. It's the same as for a snowboarder when you want a snowboarder to flex their ankles.
Put your
I'll try to
hands,
stand.
put your hands forward
Put your hands forward. Why?
to cause your body to move forward.
So my hands are forward. Is my body moving forward? Here, I'll show you my legs.
yeah, maybe Lynn, you might, is there a way in Zoom to make your camera be the main camera on Zoom?
Let me check.
I'm not an expert in Zoom, so I don't know. See if we click on.
It seems to
right,
switch that way
I need
when
to-
you're talking.
Oh, there
I
you go.
need
Now,
to-
yeah.
Can
Now
you
we
guys see it
your
now?
camera. Yeah, we can see just your camera now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now you guys can see my awesome pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, those look like pajamas.
They
Yeah.
are pajamas.
Oh,
Okay,
they
cool.
look cute.
So I don't have a fisheye. We can still do this. All right, so you guys aren't gonna see my head, but you'll see everything else.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so I'm flexed forward with my arms forward. So see, my arms can be forward without doing anything with my lower body. Is there another way, if I'm in my skiing position, that I can get my ankles more flexed?
Try to move your hips forward over your toes.
Extend the hips, drive the knees down.
No, you gotta bend those knees, please.
Who said that?
Pat did.
Cool. So why did you tell me to bend my knees? What's happening now?
Now you brought your hips more forward over your, well, you're leaning back, bend more at the waist. A little more, right there.
I like it, Pat. So does everyone see how my ankle, knee, and hip have pretty similar angles?
Oh yeah, your buttocks is lined up with your back of your ankle.
So if you drew a line from
Almost.
here to here, my center of mass, the heavy part of my body, will be right over the middle of my skis. Does that make sense to everybody?
Center of mass is right over the middle of skis.
Yeah, so you want your center of mass over your base of support, which is your ski or your snowboard.
We have to get the knees out over the toes.
Yeah, get your knees over your toes. You want to squish the tongues of those boots, which will allow you to bend your knees. It's just kind of a cue that'll an external cue. It'll push you towards your boots and you won't even think about bending your knees, but you're gonna bend your knees. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
So in summary, you're talking about bending your knees to move forward, right?
Squishing your shins into the tongues of your boots to allow you to bend your knees, to keep your ankles flexed, and that'll allow you to keep your center of mass more of your base of support. Does that make
Yeah, I
sense?
don't like
Jay?
people. Yeah, that's obvious. I always tell people, you know, when I see them, I'm like, come on, bend your knees. I'm like trying to teach people off the lift, yelling at them.
But when you say bend your knees, it's really hard for someone to just do something.
Oh no, people do what I tell them. Sometimes people do. They're like, there's good dogs and bad dogs.
Yeah, I think your point is
think
that
training-
bending your knees is just not going to do it. You have to go ahead and push your shins forward into the tongue of your boot is the point.
Mhm.
Right, to allow you to bend your knees. Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So when we come back to the fundamentals and you use that fundamental to get to that one phase of the turn, as you talk about it, when you use those body parts and you're really specific, what you're doing helps you be specific. Knowing the why, what, and how behind it is what lets you be specific rather than saying bend your knees. If you bend your ankle joint and bend your knee joint by squishing your shin into your boot, that allows you to keep your center of mass over your base of support. So if the ankles are open, right? And our knees and ankles our knees and hips are more flexed, then we'd be aft towards the tail of our skis, like Pat was saying, right?